Hello, friends. This is Dave Hurwitz, executive editor at ClassicsToday.com, here with the most beautiful melodies in the world, part 9. I think we're up to part 9. Yeah, this must be part 9. I'm really excited about this one. I'm excited about all of them, actually, because they're the most beautiful melodies in the world. So what's not to be excited about? But today, we're dealing with a composer whose name has come up surprisingly frequently. And that composer is Shostakovich, Dmitri Shostakovich. And the reason I'm surprised is because Shostakovich was not really known as a melodist. And, he certainly wasn't a melodist in the grand romantic tradition, although he could write a couple. And you've mentioned a couple. There is, of course, the Romance from the Gadfly, that gorgeous tune, which a couple of you have mentioned. And also the slow movement of the Second Piano Concerto, which he wrote for his son, and which he referred to as that piece of shit. Actually, that's a quote. That's what Shostakovich said. But it happens to be an absolutely delightful work full of fantastic tunes. But Shostakovich, of course, was a little tetchy about that because he didn't want people to think that he was kowtowing to the regime in writing socialist realist claptrap, some of which he actually did write. But I'm going to choose some tunes that come from the last 3 symphonies, late Shostakovich, the part that the stuff he wrote that most people think is uniformly grim and dismal and death obsessed, and it kind of is. I mean, it doesn't acquire that reputation out of nowhere. But Shostakovich, late in his life particularly, although he always had this ability, but particularly late in his life, he highlighted a specific kind of incredibly personal, and I agree with you, very, very beautiful melody. It's melody that's characterized by spareness, a sense of wistful desolation, a purity and innocence, and above all, fragility. Its lyricism is fragile, and that makes it all the more heartrending when it occurs, because these beautiful, lovely, simple tunes wend their way through such a bleak and desolate landscape, as often as not, sometimes not. And they occur in all 3 of the last 3 symphonies, 13, 14, and 15. And I'm going to play you samples of each, 2 of which came from you, and 1 of which came from me, because while we're on the topic, I figure we might as well cover it more completely than we otherwise would. And I hope that you'll give me that license to fill in the gaps, because we've got 13 and 15, and I'm going to give you 14, and we'll take it from there. So let's see what you had to say about it. Our first comment comes from Mr. John Camber or Cambry. I don't know how to pronounce the last name. It's Cambre, so I'll just call him John. Thank you, John. He writes, my candidate for most beautiful melody is found in the opening of Shostakovich's Symphony No. 13, that's Babi Yar, the final 5th movement. The theme is stated by the flutes and is a tune that's in part elegiac, wistful, and mysterious. It casts a spell, and as the theme is answered or developed by the reeds, it becomes questioning. One isn't sure where this inquiry is going to lead. The flutes interject again with the main melody, but then it's quickly inverted and seemingly resolved. Then the strings pick it up, developing the melodic language further and adding heft with the cellos, resolving it by echoing the opening trill, and thus closes out this initial 3/4 prelude. It's a rueful, muted waltz, and it returns at the end of the movement, ushered in by whispering strings, leading way to the symphony's final ghostly chimes. It's actually a celesta, if you want to get technical, and then a bong on the chime at the very end. No matter how many times I listen to it, I can still become tearful hearing it. No one quite had the ability to write melodies which are mournful without being maudlin, mysterious without being head-scratchers, and ultimately ineffable like DSCH did. So thank you, John. I know exactly the tune you're talking about. It's amazing, and I'm going to play it for you now, because all of these symphonies were recorded magnificently by Naxos with the Royal Liverpool Philharmonic under Vasily Petrenko. It's a great Shostakovich cycle. So here is the opening of the last movement, the fifth movement of Babi Yar, which is subtitled, by the way, A Career. That's the poem that it's a setting of, but we're not going to get to the vocal bits. This is the instrumental prelude. I think John offered a very apt description of that tune. However, there's a catch. And this is the catch, which I don't know if John was aware of, and I don't know if you're aware of, but this is a symphony. It's called the 13th Symphony, Babi Yar, and it is symphonic in construction. It does have cyclical treatment of themes, but it also has symphonic development of themes. And the last three movements in this symphony all run together, and they're all unified. They're unified by that theme. The flute theme we just heard is, in fact, a transformation of the very grim and bleak and desolate and menacing opening of the third movement at the store, which describes Russian women, lining up in the cold. Naturally, it's Russia, waiting in line to get their can of beans or whatever's available in the store. It's as bleak a picture as you can ever imagine. And it begins with this theme in its initial statement. The flute version that we just heard is actually a transformation of this tune. And so I want you to hear it. And then I'm going to play the flute version again, because I want you to really hear how Shostakovich isn't just writing an absolutely unforgettable tune, but that tune is a genuine symphonic development of something that we've heard previously. So here is the opening of the third movement. Now listen once again to the fifth movement. I hope you hear the derivation. It's all that oscillating tune. The opening is do, 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 do. And then when the flute's da, 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 you can hear it, I think, pretty clearly. But it's just a wonderful, wonderful example of Shostakovich, not only as a tunesmith, but as a symphonist in a part of his oeuvre that usually gets short shrift when people think about the Shostakovich symphonies. I happen to think the 13th is a great, great symphony. Actually, all the last three are. Now, the next one I want you to hear, this is mine. This is The Suicide from Symphony No. 14. Now, the 14th is a grim symphony. It's 11 poems all about death one way or another, although it has plenty of variety, and it's essentially a symphonic song cycle along the lines of Das Lied von der Erde for soprano and bass. And this particular song, again, it has that lost, lonely, heartfelt lyricism. It's fragile as a soap bubble. It really is. It's amazing and incredibly beautiful. And the reason I have a particular affection for this particular tune, well, there are two reasons. Number one is it was sung at the premiere by Phyllis Curtin, the great American soprano, the premiere in the U.S., under Eugene Ormandy with Simon Estes, and she participated in his recording of the work. And I happened to go to high school with her daughter, and I knew her, and so I feel a certain attachment to it because I spent my high school years with her daughter Claudia running around through the student lounge going, "Tree-lee-lee, tree-lee-lee, 3 lilies grow on my grave." That's the essential essence of the text. But more than that, when I was running the Cannes Classical Awards in France in the late 1990s and 2000s, for the decade or so that I did that, we gave a Lifetime Achievement Award to Galina Vishnevskaya, and at the award dinner, she sang that to me. And boy, was that an unbelievable moment. Between the appetizer and the entree, there was Galina Vishnevskaya, who participated, one of the 2 premier sopranos in the symphony, and she was singing to me her bits of Shostakovich's 11th, and she sang that for me, 3 lilies grow on my grave, and she's singing, she looks at me and she goes, "Oh, it's so sad, so sad." And yes, it is. And here it is, quite beautifully performed and sung by somebody whose name I can't even tell because it's got to be here. Oh, I'm sorry. There it is. There is the soprano is Gal James. Beautiful performance. Lovely, lovely breath control, especially in the high notes where she thins out the voice without it sounding at all impure or wiry. It's very beautiful. Anyway, you'll hear it yourself. Here is the opening of The Suicide, that heartfelt, sad, lonely, fragile lyricism of Shostakovich's last period. Unforgettable, isn't it? Really, really beautiful. But now we come to Symphony number 15. And for Symphony number 15, we have John Anderton. Thank you, John. Here we go. the winsome violin melody in the finale of Shostakovich's 15th, just after the Wagner Siegfried quotation. When I first heard it in Heiting's LPO recording, after all the dark tragedy and irony of the preceding three movements, it froze me in my place, nakedly vulnerable. Well, that is exactly what this music is. I think nakedly vulnerable is a wonderful way to put it. The quotation, by the way, isn't just Siegfried. It's all of the Ring. It's the fate motive from the Ring. And not only is it the fate motive from the Ring, but the opening of the melody is the prelude from Tristan and Isolde. So it's a sort of Wagnerian conflation. And you'll hear that at the very beginning of the example I'm going to play you. But this is perhaps the apotheosis of that kind of wistful, lonely, frail melody that Shostakovich developed in his late period in order to express just this lost innocence or something like that. It is absolutely heartbreaking on the one hand, but again, not maudlin, not sentimental, just completely nakedly vulnerable. Wonderful, wonderful expression. Thank you, John. And here that is. Do I have it here? Yes, here it is. Another exquisite example. And I hope these examples have, I think, shed some light on a composer who, like I said, is almost never highly regarded as a tunesmith, and whose late works tend to be, I think, underrated and misguided or misjudged, pardon me, as to their expressive intent, and who I think developed a fabulously unified, personal, intimate musical language that is nowhere more in evidence than in these heartrending, exquisite melodies. And I am sure that they qualify as worthy to stand with the most beautiful melodies in the world. So thank you to all the contributors. We're still taking contributions. We'll be doing this series probably forever. So you can feel free to submit if you please, if you wish. But again, please, just one choice per submission, and we're going to slow down, I think, after we've done 10 of these. I've mentioned that because I don't want this just to be the most beautiful melody channel, fun though this is, but we're going to keep doing it. We're going to keep doing it as long as you want to keep doing it, because this whole series has been guided by you and your selections, and I'm incredibly grateful for the fact that you've given me this opportunity to present them to you. So keep on listening, folks. Take care.